Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, Internet's busiest music nerd. And as you may already know, it's List Week, where I list out my favorite releases of the year, musical highlights of 2015, and in this video I'm getting into my 15 favorite EPs of the year, listed all the way up to my favorite EP of the year at number 1. So we have 15 here. Like I said, we're going to speed through the first 5 and get into a little more detail with the top 10.
Don't forget about my mixtape.
Your mixtape was a mixtape. It's not even an EP, would not even qualify for this list.
I had good songs on this mixtape. Boo!
Okay, I will try not to forget it as I put together the rest of these lists over here. I'll remember it. At number 15, we have the new Parquet Quartz EP, Monastic Living, some interesting instrumental and minimalist experimental rock on this thing. Then at 14, the new Thundercat EP, The Beyond and Where Giants Roam. If you're looking for a bit of neo-soul and new jazz, look into this thing. Then the various artists on the Catcher of the Fade EP. Seems like it was a bit of a, a swan song, a very quiet swan song for the Hellfire Club people, as artists like Open Mike Eagle and Milo come together on the handful of tracks that made it onto this free downloadable EP. We have Nicolas Jaar with his Nymphs EPs at number 12, and at number 11, Aphex Twin under another pen name, AFX, recently dropped an EP this year, what sounds like older material, with stuff that was way more engaging than the bulk of what landed on Cyro, in my opinion. Okay, moving on from there. At number 10, we have Swain, aka The Boys, formerly known as This Routine Is Hell, coming together with the Heavy Dancing EP, which is an interesting turn, an interesting musical switch for them, where they're essentially making very heavy, sludgy, hardcore punk with a little bit of grunge influence as well, sounding kind of 90s, but even though this thing was, in my opinion, a little, I guess, underwhelming, not enough material to really be just head over heels for this thing, it's going to be interesting to see if this band executes with this sound on their next full-length LP. At number 9, a death metal EP, Vorum, Current Mouth. This thing is incredibly savage, gross, disgusting, mean, guttural, and just all around nasty. And I have to say I was impressed with this thing, sort of caught onto it very recently, not early enough to sort of do a review on it before it made it onto this list. However, that sort of practice is nothing new for my yearly EPs list. I try to trip back and find EPs that might have fallen under my radar. And if you're into death metal, if you're into extreme metal, then I recommend you check this thing out, because it was pretty well performed, some interesting riffs and melodies on this thing, as well as the usual nastiness and extremity that I expect and enjoy in a death metal record. At number 8, some post-punk and some noise rock mayhem from the band Guerrilla on their latest EP. The guitars, the drums on this thing are fun, chaotic, sometimes they're herky, jerky, and danceable, and the shriek lead vocals on this thing are very ear-grabbing, fun, and colorful. Very interested to see if this band continues down this path on their next full-length LP. Then at number 7, another EP I did not review this year, but revisiting it because I know it was a pretty hyped EP, revisiting it for this list, I enjoyed it quite a bit, is the new Earl Sweatshirt EP, Solace. It was very dark, very dreary, very downtrodden, very depressing, much like a lot of the material on I Don't Like Shit, I Don't Go Outside, but some of it felt like, I don't know, a little more fleshed out, and also like it hit closer to home and had a bit of a level of relatability to it, especially that moment about his grandmother on this thing, which in a way sort of tore me apart emotionally, and it was just a really strong, captivating moment. Our next EP also deals with some pretty extreme, angry, in-your-face emotions. The G.L.O.S. demo EP, this hardcore punk band, it absolutely just stomped my face in with this new EP over here. It's sludgy, it's slow, it's heavy. The lyrics deal in a lot of trans issues of hate, discrimination, sexuality, and I think it just brazenly puts them against some pretty badass fucking guitar riffs. Also at number 5, I will shout out the new DeMarco EP / mini album. Wasn't really sure how to categorize this thing. Some people are calling it an album, some people are calling it an EP. For the sake of this list, I'm going to call it an EP. And even though you may think it's an album, I'm just going to call it that to get it on this list because I did like it. I wasn't head over heels for it, but I did like it more than his latest album, certainly. Very dreamy, sweet little love songs, but also incredibly sad songs on this thing as well. DeMarco going into, I guess, more somber territory with this project, really pulling at a lot of heartstrings. It was a little easygoing, a little breezy, a little slow, didn't quite have the pop appeal of some of the tracks off of 2, but I liked it. I liked it. I loved this next EP, however. I did review it, thought it was a clever little rap EP. It's the new Your Old Droog EP, the Kinison EP. It is a hip-hop EP with really fantastic verses that overtly reference rock music and numerous rock bands. An interesting concept, and Your Old Droog is, I guess, exactly the artist to carry that concept out because he does an amazing job with one track after another. It was a cool little concept. I still commend it. I still think it's a great EP, and I'm looking forward to seeing if he is as ambitious on his next album. Let's go forward to number 3, Open Mic Eagle, a special episode of a bit of an afterthought to his dark comedy record, but that was a really great record, and I feel like nearly every track here could go toe-to-toe with much of the material on that album, especially his revision of the opening track on that album with the dark comedy Late Show, which is easily the best track here, and I think one of Mike's best tracks, period. I think he's continuing to show improvement with each new release, and I'm just wondering how far can he take it. This EP excites me. It's a good handful of songs from an incredibly talented, clever, and thoughtful rapper. At number 2, we have an EP that is incredibly forward-thinking when it comes to electronic music, coming from the Brain Feeder camp, and just all around a very fun release with a lot of density, a lot of character, a lot of intricacies. Interviewed this guy as well, had a lot of very cool things to say about his music. I'm talking about Iglooghost with the Chinese New Year EP. If you want to hear elements of Flying Lotus, maybe a little bit of PC music, some house, some hip-hop, some trap, just, he throws everything together into a blender. It's such a clutter, but it's a beautiful clutter, and incredibly just overwhelming too. So excitingly overwhelming that I can't wait for this dude to come out with a record. If he packs an EP with so much mind-bending electronic music, I can just imagine what he would do when allowing himself 40 minutes, 50 minutes to make an impression. And we will end off at number 1, my number 1 favorite EP of the year, easily the most conceptual and fully realized EP I've heard this year. Even though it's not really that long, it runs and it feels a lot like an album, and in that I thought it was incredibly satisfying, and I think it was kind of a step up in terms of the mind-bending weirdness that is FKA Twigs. Her debut full-length LP, LP1, which I enjoyed last year, was great. I like that she made music that was so accessible, did have so many obvious reference points to mainstream pop music, to R&B, but it sounds like in this new EP over here, she just went completely off the deep end. I mean, a lot of those references are still there, but this is so much more of a challenging, stimulating listen for me. So there you go. Those are my top 15 favorite EPs of 2015. Let me know what some of yours are if I have not listed them in this list. You're the best. Transition. What were some of your favorite EPs of this year? I think I already asked you that. Well, hey, I hope you guys have a good holiday. Hope you're doing well. Make sure to get some water, stay hydrated, eat those fruits and veggies, get those vitamins and minerals, and that's it. You're the best. Anthony Fantano, EPs forever.